there's really not much people interaction in either of these positions. So if you're like, I really want to work in HR, but I don't want to deal with people, child, both of these positions are good for you. For my introverts out there, these are great positions for you. You're definitely more than in an entry-level HR position. So don't take the first offer, child. These positions come with weight. If they give you an offer, push back, negotiate. I mean, unless they're in your salary range. Hey y'all, this is Tamika, the face behind Heyyy HR, and today we're gonna talk all about the difference between two positions, the HR Analyst and the HRIS Analyst. So the HR Analyst, Human Resources Analyst, the HRIS Analyst is the Human Resources Information System Analyst. So if you wanna know the difference between the two, keep watching. So I wrote some notes just to help me out from staying on track because these two positions are very, very unique across the HR field. A lot of people call HR an industry. HR is not an industry, it's a career field. An industry is something all the way different. That would be manufacturing, retail, hospitality, things like that. So across the HR field, the HR Analyst and the HRS Analyst are just two dynamic positions. The HRIS Analyst, in my opinion, is fairly new. After working in HR for 11 years, I have not seen much of that until now that we have so many systems. But we also have an HR Analyst who's always been used in multiple different places. So let's talk about the definition of each. The HR Analyst completes, compiles, and analyzes human resources data, metrics, and statistics. Then apply this data to make recommendations related to recruitment, retention, legal compliance, etc. They gather this data up and they figure out how they're going to gather this data, because sometimes some companies don't even have metrics for you to pull. So a lot of times they may realize we need an HR Analyst because we're clueless. We know that data tells the story. We know that polling our team, doing surveys, doing small group conversations really help us make those metrics so that we can see the progress or decline. We also know that completing different things in our system, maybe completing an HR dashboard. I've done a couple videos on HR dashboards. We know that those things help us create those metrics, and we need a dedicated person to help us create those metrics. So an HR Analyst is really just a data analyst. The difference is that they're focused on things for the human resources career field, the human resources department. Now, an HRIS Analyst is a tad bit different. They're considered the IT and data expert in the HR field while working with companies' human resources information systems. So human resources information systems, I've done a video on that too, child. So I will definitely put the link to that too. But the HRIS is pretty much your system that you're going to use as your one-stop shop for everything. Now, HRS is not an app. Let me start with that. But I love Target's app. I feel like I can do a lot in Target's app. Matter of fact, let's change the narrative a bit because I feel like I can master the world in Amazon's app. So let's look at Amazon's app, right? When I open up Amazon's app, I can do so many different things. I can immediately start shopping. I can see what's trending, what's new. I can save things if I want and make different lists. I can make me an Amazon store from the things that I bought. I can always see what's going on with my order. I can return my order. I can see when the last time I've ordered something. I can share lists with others. And HRS is very similar in my opinion. It allows you to sit in one system and do everything. It's not necessarily an app. Some of these systems are using an app as well. Like Paycom has its app. I think ADP has its app. Not all of them have an app, but it works very similar where anyone in human resources in the human resources field or that needs information from human resources like payroll, like your managers, then they can get access to this system to manage employees in the system. Some of these systems include applicant tracking systems. Most of them do. A lot of them include your benefits. A lot of them include your onboarding. A lot of them include workers' comp information. But this is where you want somebody that knows this whole system and they can master this system. You're the go-to person for this. You know when to plug in IT. You know when to call it the actual system that made this. And you know when to create new workflows in this system. You know how to pull data in this system. You know how to add someone as a user in this system. You know how to take that change away. This person is literally an expert in this system. But it does take knowing human resources as well. And I'll tell you guys that I used to absolutely love Paycom when a previous company I had worked with them. We had a guy who was just amazing. He knew HR and he knew that system. He knew both. And then they promoted him, allowed him to manage a team, and I kept getting people at Paycom that just knew the system. I would ask for something, they're clueless what I'm asking for. You can't just know the system. You gotta know HR too. So both of these positions are pretty elevated, right? So your data analyst needs to know HR enough to know what data, what metrics, what statistics is needed. According to who's asking me for it, what should I create? What should I suggest? And so it takes a lot more than just being like, well, I know data. I know how to use Power BI. I know how to use Tableau. No, it takes knowing how to use HR too. So to do any of these positions, I would highly, highly suggest that you work at least in an entry-level position so that you can work yourself to an HR generalist position. I never suggest skipping spots. I feel like if I said, you know what, go ahead and just be an HR generalist, child, you're going to get in there and don't know what the hell you're asking. Now you hate the whole HR career field, not realizing you're frustrated with yourself because you have jumped into a position that you just weren't prepared for. So I'll never tell you to jump straight into an HR generalist. But I think once you become an HR generalist, you touch so much of it that you can easily pivot into being an HRIS analyst or an HR analyst. The difference is, with an HRIS analyst, you have to know what system they're using and you need to learn that system. If you know multiple systems, you're like, well, to me, I done touched this one before, I done touched that one before. An HRIS analyst is an expert in particular systems. Not that I just touched it, I used it, as I know how to use a front end, the back end, I know how to create stuff from original, I know how to fix stuff in there, I know how to be the go-to person. So some of the benefits of these two positions is that both of them usually give a higher salary than normal. You can negotiate easier for a higher salary with either of these positions. You're definitely more than in an entry-level HR position. So don't take the first offer, child. These positions come with weight. If they give you an offer, push back, negotiate. I mean, unless they're in your salary range. But you can easily work remotely for either of these positions. I was checking up on comments, get them all updated, and somebody said, hey, how can I work remotely in HR? And somebody else replied and said, you can't. You need to know people. You need to be in person. I'm like, child, I haven't been in person in the HR department for, 4 years, I think. I did like 6 months in one office, but I'm probably going to try to retire out working from home and being remote. But you can easily work remote in either of these positions. Both of these positions really allow creativity and autonomy because somebody can ask you for something, but a lot of times they have an idea, but if you know even more, you can make their idea really clean, really nice, really easily shock someone because you're the expert in this. So somebody asks you for data, don't just pull like an Excel sheet and be like, here you go. Like as an HR analyst or even an HRS analyst, whatever data I pull, I wouldn't just give an Excel sheet. I would make pivot tables, I would make pie charts, I would make bar graphs. Even with doing that in Excel, if I felt like, okay, those are boring, then I definitely would use Tableau, Power BI, like bring it to life, show them trends, create an HR dashboard, show them what's going on over and over again. It's expected in this role that you're creating HR dashboards, particularly as an HR analyst, not an HRIS analyst. An HRIS analyst, we ask you to, if you're going to make dashboards, make them in the system. We ask you to make it amazing for us. There's really not much people interaction in either of these positions. So if you're like, I really want to work in HR, but I don't want to deal with people, child, both of these positions are good for you. For my introverts out there, these are great positions for you because you really are not going to work with the employee population all that much. You're going to work with managers. You're going to work with the HR department. You're going to work with leaders. And most times they can send you whatever in an email. And honestly, the way you stand out is to be like, here's this form. If y'all need information from me, this is how you submit for it. That really shows your creativity and your autonomy and gives you less opportunity to have to really deal with people. Now we want to talk about how do I get started with these positions? I've tapped on this just a tad bit. Let's tap on it again. You really need to start in an entry-level HR position. I've done a video all on the HR career ladder, so you may want to visit that. I also have it in the training manual, so you definitely want to check that out. I'll put the links to those below. But both of those will tell you what are considered HR entry-level positions. The biggest thing is that a lot of companies will change names of these things. Don't let the name trick you. Learn the basic names enough so that you can put together what they're asking for just from the title. And then you would definitely go into an HR generalist role next. A lot of people may say, well, if I got an entry-level position, now they want to make me a manager. If you're managing yourself, then cool. If you're managing a team and you went from an entry-level position to being a manager, I don't suggest it because now you need to learn two things: how to manage people and how to manage a department all at the same time. Entry-level in my position does not mean you know all about HR. I just haven't seen it yet. I haven't experienced it. I have seen so many people that have done HR coordinator positions, HR assistant positions, like for smaller companies. Sometimes if you do it for a bigger company, then yeah, it was something else to talk about. But when you do it for like a smaller company, and smaller to me is 500 or less employees, then do you really know what you're doing? I just don't think it's enough experience. But lastly, another way to build up your skills to get prepared for these positions is just to learn Excel in and out, learn data in and out. Just the basics of it. You don't need to learn how to tie it to HR, but you want to make sure that you know how to use Excel really well, how to gather data, what does metrics look like, how do I measure it, where do I pull it from? Just the basics overall, not what makes it in realms of like a HR position. You probably want to learn an elevated system like Power BI or Tableau. You want to also learn something like project management, because a lot of times for both positions, you're managing some aspect of a project. You're a big part of a project, so you probably want to learn that as well. To really get in depth and be prepared for either positions, there's a lot that you need to know. There's a lot that you need to get acclimated with. In addition to the last two things I just said, let me break it down just a tad bit. For an HR analyst, you really need to know Excel, you really need to know data, you really need to know something a little bit more elevated like Power BI or Tableau. So you really want to learn the ins and outs of that from a basic standpoint outside of HR and definitely in HR. Now, for an HRIS analyst, you want to learn all things human resources first. And after you've done that and you're comfortable in there, then you really need to learn the company's HRS, or most use HRSs. So a lot of people will use, off the top of my head, right? A lot of people use ADP, a lot of people use Paychecks, a lot of people use so many others. Some of the common ones, you want to learn those. And people be like, well, how do I learn it? How do I learn it? Most times it's easier to learn it if you're their client. They will teach their clients how to learn their systems. So you really want to work in an HR department that uses that system to learn it. Once you become an HR point of contact or one of their clients, then they have knowledge libraries inside their systems. They have on-demand webinars. They have scheduled webinars. They have learning centers. Like, so many of them have different things so you can learn the system. They even will send someone out to your office, most times for like 60 minutes, an hour, 2 hours at a time. That's not enough time to learn these systems. You need to learn some of the basics so that when they come in, you can get them to teach you a higher level of the system. Cool. So I hope that you guys found this helpful. After working in HR for the last 11 years and being in so many different industries and different department sizes, I've really learned a lot about human resources. I've learned, human resources is like my second language, child. So you definitely found a good resource. If this is your first time watching a HR video, then definitely do me a huge favor and at least hit the like button, because if you made it this far, you kind of like this stuff. I want you to know that I am a human resources professional that eat and breathe this stuff. I started my career as an HR assistant, worked up to an HR director. Now I sit happily as a global human resources business partner, and I have the highest level SHRM certification, a double master's degree, and I just am here creating content to help you. So please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. I promise you won't regret it. For those of you who are returning, hey, what's going on? This is my virtual hug. So happy to see you return. Cannot wait to see you on the next video.